Hello everyone, my name is Nightshade and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Monster Hunter World. In the last episode we took care of some side quests right before our big fight with the Anjanath, and in this episode I say we take the fight right to him. I've been just itching to fight this fire-breathing dinosaur, and I think what better way to celebrate the 10th episode of this Let's Play by doing just that. Yeah, remember when I was terrified of that thing? Not anymore. I think that was back in like episode 2 or 3. I think it was one with the Kuli Yaku where we bumped into the Anjanath for the first time and I about lost my crud. Oh boy. Long way we've come. Now for this monster, I have taken the time to make the Juratotus dual blades for two reasons, namely. One is because the Anjanath has hard-hitting attacks, and the nice little speed boost that you get from going into demon mode really helps you evade as many of his attacks as possible. And secondly, the Anjanath himself is weak to water, and you want to deal as much damage as possible to the Anjanath within the quickest amount of time, so he doesn't have time to hit you with his fire. And believe me, it hurts. It hurts real bad. And the dual blades is probably one of, if not the best weapon class for damage per second in the game. So that's why I picked dual blades. Now one thing to mention here is that you should have the bone armor equipped because it really does help with the fire resistance, and you should have it nearly maxed out. If you don't have it maxed out, you'll probably struggle a little bit. Like, well, I guess you don't need to have it fully maxed out, just maybe like 1 or 2 levels away from being maxed out, because the less damage you take from his fire, the better. I tried looking for a meal with fire resistance here, but I couldn't find one. So I just went with a small attack boost. I could have, now thinking back on this, I could have gone with an attack boost medium, but any kind of attack boost will do. I always wonder how the hunter manages to stomach all that food. Let's go ahead and restock our inventory here, make sure that we're all prepared and ready to go. Yep, looks like we got everything that we need. Go ahead and talk to the handler. Sorry if you hear my dog barking in the background, she's a loud one.
Are we heading out?
And go ahead and go to Assigned and select Encroaching Anjanath. Southwest Camp. I forget to put on a lucky voucher here, so I end up just canceling the quest and doing that, because I want more money. Because armor sets are gonna start getting expensive after a while.
Are we heading out?
Just go ahead and do that. Oh, you just press triangle to use a voucher. It's nice because it gives you more money. I don't know if it gives you more drops, but it definitely gives you more money. Let's go. I will see you guys there then. Alrighty then, let's get this show on the road.
Secure the base by taking out that encroaching Anjanath. Use everything at your disposal. That's the way it works.
Yep, she's right on that one. You're not going to want to hold back either, or else the Anjanath will have you for dinner. Again, just checking the area for any thunderbugs that I can use. Doesn't look like there are any. Or if there were, I just didn't see them. Shouldn't be too long before we track down the Anjanath. I know it's pretty mobile, so it'll leave footprints all over the place. Shouldn't be too hard to find. It likes to eat Anjanath as well. Seems to be one of its favorite food sources. Looks like we have something already. Although it's not the Anjanath footprint, I think that's the Puke Puke. Although the icon looks a little small. Or that might be the Anjanath, I don't know. It's always good to collect any sort of footprint, really, because you can get as much data as you need on monsters. Can't stress that enough. Ah, there we go. So I was right, that wasn't the Anjanath. Now we just need to find a couple more tracks. Oh, there we go. Picked up on it earlier than I expected. And now we just need to follow the trail. Here we have it, folks. The big bad Tyrannosaurus Rex himself, the Anjanath. The Anjanath is classified as a brute wyvern, and it can be found in the ancient forest and the wildspire waste. Now the weakness is water, so I would really recommend you taking the time to go and hunt a few Juratotus to make a good water elemental weapon, like the Juratotus dual blades. I don't know if the Juratotus has a hammer that you can access yet, but it probably does, but I just went with the dual blades. You can cut its tail, you can wound its legs, you can break its head, and you can break its nose. Now, for resistances, obviously, it resists fire, because it breathes fire, no duh. So now, for the status effects, we have Fire Blight. Now, with Fire Blight, you don't need null berries for it, you just need to roll around 3 times, and then the fire will extinguish itself. I would really recommend that you bring the bone armor set for this one, because even if you do have the bone armor set, it'll still do a little bit of fire damage, but it will be highly negated. You can obtain a shiny by attacking its throat while it glows red, so that's a way you can get an extra item from it. One thing to note is that it will have Turf War with Rathalos, Great Jagras, and the Tobikadachi. So just keep that in mind when you're fighting it. Like, you can try and lure it over to, let's say, the Great Jagras, or if there's a Rathalos in the area, you can do that, and then it'll get into a Turf War, allowing you to either sharpen your weapon or have it get knocked out, and then you can have maybe a 10 to 15 second window to do as much damage as possible to it when it gets knocked down. With that covered, let's go ahead and move on to armor. For this armor set, I would really recommend making this because of how useful it is. With this set, you get Fire Attack, which gives you a boost to your fire elemental weapons so that they do more damage. You get Marathon Runner, which slows down stamina depletion for actions which continuously drain stamina, such as dashing, for example, and rolling out of the way. And Special Ammo Boost, which increases the power of Bowgun, Special Ammo, and Dragon Piercer. Fire Resistance, which helps negate some damage from fire elemental attacks. Oh, and by the way, with the Special Ammo Boost, it's talking about like elemental coatings and elemental rounds for your bowguns and your bows and whatnot like that. And Artillery, which strengthens explosive attacks like Gunlance Shells, Wyvern's Fire, Charge Blade File attacks, and Sticky Ammo. Finally, if you're wearing at least 3 pieces of this armor set, you get the Anjanath bonus, which grants you Adrenaline, so you can have temporarily reduced stamina depletion when your health is at 40% or lower. So yeah, definitely an armor set that I would consider making. That's all I've got for the Anjanath, folks. Yeah, I would say that this monster in particular is one of my favorites, just because of how simple yet intimidating it is. It's just a giant T-Rex that can tear you in half. In fact, it did try to eat me at the very beginning of the hunt. I must have not tasted very good. The idea of a fire-breathing Tyrannosaurus Rex has probably been done before in movies and stuff like that, but I think Monster Hunter World gets the idea down flat. The execution of it was just so masterful. I mean, look at that thing. It can destroy the environment around it. Yeah, and it's quite intimidating. I know I sound like a broken record, but what else can I say? You can also lead the Anjanath into environmental traps like that one, where I think it got stuck in a bunch of twigs or just tree branches and was immobilized. You can see that it's fully enraged now because it's got what looks like wings, I want to call them. That's not what they do, but they look like wings to me, so let's just call them wings. It also has that lunge that it can do to close the distance, and I believe it's fairly damaging. I don't think I get hit by it here, but if you do, it takes a fair big chunk of your health. Big part of Monster Hunter World's gameplay is using the environment to your advantage, and that's exactly what I do here. I hid in the bush to sharpen my weapon so that the monster does not see me, because it takes, I want to say, a good 3 to 4 seconds to sharpen your weapon totally without speed sharpener, and that's just a little bit of vulnerability. I know you can roll out of the sharpening animation at any time you want, but I just want to keep my weapon sharpened at full at all times, because dual blades, they're the kind of weapon that takes a big toll on your durability, because you're doing a bunch of quick little rapid hits. Like in the top left corner, you'll notice how quickly my sharpness goes down. That's the only drawback with these Duratotus dual blades, is that they don't have very much green sharpness, but they can get the job done for what you're trying to do with the Anjanath. Let me warn you right here and now, if you do get a direct hit with the Anjanath's fire breath, you're probably going to get one-shotted, because even though the bone armor provides good resistance from, like, let's say that the fire breath grazes you, or you don't take it head on, then you won't take as much damage. Whereas with a direct hit, it'll probably one-shot you, or leave you with just a sliver of health, to where the fire blight damage tick will just finish you off and then cart you. Yeah, not something you want to play around with, which is why I got the speed boost, so that when the Anjanath fire does come out, and it does come out pretty darn quick, you can avoid it without having to roll most of the time. I tried to stun it with the flash bug cluster, but it wasn't facing the right way, so get him next time. Just hacking away at its heals. You want to stay under the Anjanath if you can. It does have a little back leg kick that it can use if you're behind its legs, and that does do a little bit of damage, but it won't knock you out of a dual blades combo because it has super armor. Just racking up the damage. That right there was the little back leg kick that it can do. You've broken quite a lot of parts on it and got another knockdown. Yeah, you can see that these Duratotus dual blades are just going to town on the thing. Makes quick work of it. Gosh, I love that skybox. I don't think I break its nose here, but I think if you want to break its nose quickly, then use a hammer for that. One thing to note, if you're trying to make the Anjanath armor, is that it's going to require a plate, and plates are rare drops. Well, they're an example of the first of many different kinds of rare drops, and what I would recommend you doing in order to speed up that process is capture it instead of killing the Anjanath, which boosts the drop rate for rare items and makes it so that you get more items in general. The Anjanath definitely made me nervous a couple times while I was fighting it, because there were a few times where I genuinely was close to death, and this thing definitely has the potential to kill you if you're not expecting it. Then again, there are vigor wasps scattered across the whole entire area, which you can just press circle and then it'll give you health. And then there's herbs everywhere to make extra potions with. Which I would really recommend that you do. If you're running low on potions, don't be afraid to just move away and gather more blue mushrooms and herbs. Yeah, the Anjanath is definitely a heavy hitter, so I wouldn't underestimate it one bit. Sometimes it can be hard to cut the Anjanath's tail because it's elevated off the ground. So some tips that I would recommend for you is to either bring a longsword, or when it's knocked down, just focus on the tail as much as possible. I don't like using a longsword until I get some form of earplugs because combos can be interrupted because roars stun you. So just keep that in mind, that you probably won't be able to finish a full combo because of a monster's roaring. Here's another thing. When you're using demon mode, it constantly drains stamina. So what you'll want to do is, well, first you want to make sure that you have the maximum amount of stamina possible. So be sure to eat your meal back at base camp, and be sure to eat a well-done steak if you're not already full on stamina. So that way you can stay in demon mode and have that nice little speed boost and deal as much damage as possible. There's also another item called Dash Juice, and the better version of it is called Mega Dash Juice, which allows you to have infinite stamina for a couple minutes at a time, I think. I might be wrong on that time frame, but I think it's a couple minutes. And it's just really handy because you can stay in demon mode as long as you possibly want without any hindrances at all. You can dodge it all over the place. Basically any action that requires stamina is now null and void when you drink that. Although I don't know if you can access it at this point in the game. But when we do gain access to it, I'll be sure to make as many of those as possible. You always want to make sure that you have more of the item than what you actually need. That's one golden rule that you always have to follow in Monster Hunter, because you never know what you're going to expect. Like, some monsters just swoop in and take you by surprise, and then wham! Half of your health is already gone. We've started to wear it down a little bit more. Shouldn't have too much steam left in it. I managed to get a pretty good mount here on its tail, nonetheless. But I get knocked off due to stamina consumption. Actually, that's another thing that Dash Juice would help with, is you can have infinite stamina when mounting monsters. Oh, I do. Yeah, I remember now. I do cut the thing's tail off. It took a while, obviously, but I did it. Now, when you do cut a monster's tail off, I would not recommend instantly going for the carve, because that leaves you vulnerable, and obviously the monster can punish you for it. Instead, I would wait until it leaves the area, and then you can carve its tail. And there we go, it's limping. Oh yeah, I forget to carve the tail here. Oh boy. Oh well. That's just one carve that I won't have for later. One thing that I don't get is why monsters tend to just fall asleep when they know that you're chasing them. Like, hello, I'm just gonna go to sleep. And I hope that the hunter that's been trying to kill me doesn't try to kill me anymore. One of the Anjanath's favorite resting places, I don't know if it has multiple, but it'll come up here in like the canopy section of the ancient forest and take a nap. And look at who we have here. It's our old friend Rathalos. Now I accidentally jump off here. I don't know if it was out of fear or just an accidental movement with the controller, but I probably just missed a turf war between the Anjanath and the Rathalos, so I apologize for that, people. It takes me a little bit to get back up to where the Anjanath is, too. You can get lost in this area of the ancient forest in particular. Just because of how many different winding paths there are. Yeah, we can take on the Anjanath right now, but I don't know if we can take down a Rathalos. For any of those of you wondering, the Rathalos was the original flagship monster for the very first Monster Hunter game, I believe. Yeah, it's been there from the start. All the way back since Monster Hunter 1 on the original PS1. Or the original PlayStation, I should call it. So now whenever you fall off of a layer on this canopy section of the ancient forest, you can just use the vines that are around the place. Dang, it looks pretty banged up. Well, let's just finish the job off. If you're using some weapons that have you move around, have you move around all over the place, you can sometimes fall off. There's no fall damage in this game, but I'd still be careful, because that's just more time that you're wasting trying to get up. And that's a fairly sliced and diced Anjanath taken care of. Not too bad. The only thing that really hurt was its fire and some of its lunge attacks. I always hate these little ads because they interrupt your carving animation and they can possibly make it so that you miss out on potential carves, which is why I always make sure to take care of them before I carve a monster. Job done. Very good work. Let's see what we have here. We got some Anjanath scales, some armor sphere pluses, some honey, which is always nice. But the main thing that we want to focus on here is the armor sphere pluses. That's a higher grade of armor sphere, which will let which will let you upgrade your armor even further, which is very nice. I believe this is the first quest to where you can get armor sphere pluses. So I would farm a little bit for those. Anyways, let's head back to base. Props to whoever designed this loading screen, by the way. It's like, so beautiful! Oh my gosh.
Gather round, people. We have much to discuss. All our preparations are complete, and I have all of you to thank for working double time to make it happen. I'm especially impressed with the 5th for hunting the Anjanath despite being new here. That's one less misery standing between us and capturing Zora Magdaros. Well done. When will Zora reach the Great Ravine?
Precisely at daybreak.
Good. Let's run through the operation one last time, then. Our hunters will rendezvous on site. Once the beast appears, the operation will commence. We've built 2 barriers in the target's path. Your objective is to stop it at the first barrier, initially wearing it down with cannon and ballista fire, then restrain it with binders. However, there is a chance it will break through. If so, we'll initiate the mounting phase of the operation. During this phase, we'll attempt to weaken it further, so that we'll have a better chance of restraining it at the second barrier. Make sure you hammer it as much as possible with cannons and ballista. They're there for a reason.
Affirmative, sir.
Technicians, make sure you do a final check on the equipment before we begin.
Yes, sir.
Quartermasters, conduct an inventory on our supplies. Researchers, proceed to the Great Ravine with your escort as soon as you're ready. We can't bring our quarry back to base, so take what you need and be prepared to conduct your research on site.
Don't worry, Commander.
Everything will be in order.
Keep your ears open during the operation. I'll be giving orders as the situation unfolds. May the Sapphire Star light your way. Dismissed!
Wow, the big moment is finally here.
I still have a feeling that this is going to go horribly wrong. But anyways, with the Anjanath finally slain, the only thing that we really did for this episode was, you guessed it, hunt an Anjanath. But in the next episode, you'll hopefully see me in a brand new, shiny set of Anjanath armor, which I'm pretty stoked for that. Future me should have that done in no time. But yeah, this is our first Elder Dragon fight. Go ahead and get our honey. There we go. Thank you, my good man. It's gonna be a very exciting fight. Anyways, this has been Nightshade, and I want to thank you guys for tuning in for the 10th episode of Let's Play Monster Hunter World. In the next episode, we'll finally get to try and capture Zora Magdaros. I will see you guys next time. Ciao.